Welcome all. So welcome to week 3 of the diabetes webinar series. Last week we began to discuss the principles of nutrition and diabetes management, and today we're going to dive a little bit further. My name is Amanda Pfizer, and I'm a certified health coach with Connect Care 3. And presenting today is our registered dietitian, Lindsay Moran. As we mentioned previously, this is week 3 of 6, and today's focus will be on nutrition. So let's begin with a recap of last week. Hyperglycemia, or high blood sugar, occurs when there is too much glucose circulating in your blood. It may occur from eating many foods high in sugar and carbohydrates and not having enough exercise, experiencing illness, or experiencing stress. Symptoms include increased thirst, frequent urination, blurred vision, and even headaches. Hypoglycemia, or low blood sugar, occurs when there is too little glucose circulating in your blood. It may occur after taking too much insulin or other diabetes medications, after skipping a meal, or after exercising harder than usual. Symptoms can include dizziness, shakiness, sweating, hunger, irritability, and again, headaches. Finally, we discussed nutrition, more specifically the 3 macronutrients. Can you remember the 3 macronutrients? Last week, we also discussed using the diabetes plate method to help build balanced, properly portioned meals. Here's another image again to remind you of what a balanced plate might look like. Remember to strive to fill half your plate with non-starchy vegetables such as broccoli, carrots, zucchini, a quarter of your plate with lean proteins such as eggs, poultry, or fish, and the final quarter with foods high in carbohydrates such as whole grains, starchy vegetables, or even fruits. Don't forget to stay hydrated with water or another low-calorie beverage as well. So today's objectives include the following. Lindsay is going to start us off by talking about using food to fuel your body and what makes up a healthy eating plan. She'll talk about the 3 macronutrients, how they impact blood sugar, the importance of them in your diet. She'll share with you some delicious meal and snack ideas, as well as tips for making healthful choices while on the go.
Thanks, Amanda. So hello again, everyone. And as Amanda said, welcome to our week of nutrition. So when you're managing diabetes, your eating plan is a critical tool. It's the key to feeling your best, and this lies in the foods you eat, and a well-balanced diet can help to boost your immune system, promote healthy digestion, reduce your risk for developing other chronic diseases, and even help to maintain a healthy weight. Figuring out what to eat can sometimes feel like a challenge. However, today we are going to try and make things a bit easier and more manageable for you. The truth is, by making just a few changes, you can significantly impact your health and manage those blood sugars through nutrition. So I'd like you first to take a moment and think to yourself, what makes up that healthy eating plan? We talked about a few of these things last week, so try to remember those, and we'll add a few more to the list today. So as we talked about last week, included in a balanced or well-balanced eating plan, it is carbohydrates, fat, and protein, those 3 macronutrients. Also, adequate vitamins, minerals, and micronutrients, those smaller components to our foods. Equally as important is receiving enough calories to fuel your body and to give your body the proper amount of energy that it needs to run optimally each and every day. And remember that any meal plan should always take into account your specific age, gender, activity level, height, weight, and of course, your medical history. Remember that nutrition is not one size fits all, and that everyone has unique and individual needs. Your eating plan might look a bit different than the person sitting next to you or even another member of your families. Remember that everyone is different here. And always consult with a doctor or another health professional like a registered dietitian if looking for specific meal plan recommendations or advice. So when we think about food, it's always important to remember that our food is our body's fuel. Just like your car needs gas to run, our bodies need food to function optimally and to keep us healthy and strong. With diabetes, food becomes even more important as it is needed to help keep those blood sugar levels in check. Throughout the presentation today, you'll hear me speak about balance quite a bit. Balance is important in a general healthy meal plan, but becomes even more critical when managing diabetes. A healthy balance is one that will provide you with adequate calories, a variety of vitamins and minerals, and that appropriate amount of carbohydrates to manage your blood sugar. So as we reviewed a bit today and also discussed last week, we have those 3 important macronutrients that you see here on the screen. That's your carbohydrates, protein, and fat. These nutrients each provide energy or that fuel to our bodies and are used for several different functions. Today we're going to take a bit of a deeper dive at into each of these macronutrients so you can be sure you have a good understanding of them. Beginning with carbohydrates. What's the scoop? Carbohydrates or carbs are an extremely important component to a well-balanced diet, especially with that diabetes diagnosis. Carbohydrates are essential nutrients that provide our bodies with the energy we need to complete daily tasks. Did you know that carbohydrates are our brain's preferred source of energy? It's true. Carbs come in many forms. However, the 3 that you are most likely familiar with are starches, sugars, and fiber. When choosing your source of carbohydrate, the key is to choose a majority of what we call complex carbs. In addition to calories and energy, these complex carbohydrates provide good source of vitamins, minerals, and other nutrients for added benefit. On the other hand, it is best to limit consumption of what are called refined carbohydrates. These are most likely to cause your blood sugar to spike, and they also lack those additional nutrients that complex carbohydrates carry. Refined carbohydrates are usually found in highly processed foods, and when they're eaten in excess, they might cause hyperglycemia and even weight gain. This is why carbs tend to get a bad reputation. You may be wondering then, what are the best choices of carbohydrate foods for me and my blood sugar? Looking for whole and or minimally processed foods is a good place to start. Nutrient-dense carbohydrates include the following: whole grains such as whole wheat bread and crackers, brown rice, oats, barley, or even whole wheat pasta. Other items include legumes like lentils, beans, and peas. And finally, fruits and vegetables such as potatoes, corn, apples, bananas, and several more are sources, again, of these high nutrient-dense carbohydrates that are going to give you more bang for your buck than you might get from some of those refined choices, like maybe white bread or white rice even. Again, those foods are okay in moderation, but more consistently, we want to include all of these complex nutrient-dense carbohydrate sources. Next comes fiber. So as mentioned in the previous slide, dietary fiber, also known as roughage or bulk, is another form of carbohydrate that's found in our plant-based foods. It differs, though, from other carb sources as your body can't digest it. There are 2 types of fiber: soluble and insoluble. Soluble fiber dissolves in water and forms a gel-like material. It then slows the absorption of sugar to help improve your blood sugar levels, and it might also help to promote healthy cholesterol levels. Soluble fiber is found in foods such as oatmeal, nuts, beans, lentils, blueberries, and apples. On the other hand, insoluble fiber does not dissolve in water, and promotes the movement of material through your digestive system. This can be helpful in keeping your bowel movements regular. This type of fiber is found in foods such as whole wheat bread, brown rice, those legumes, carrots, cucumbers, and tomatoes. The amount of soluble and insoluble fiber varies in all of our different plant foods. So in order to make sure we're getting a balanced amount of each, it's best to consume a wide variety of these fiber-rich foods to achieve those greatest health benefits. The daily fiber recommendation is between 25 and 35 grams per day. A few examples of high fiber foods are as follows. 1 cup of blueberries contains about 6 grams of fiber. A half a cup of oats contains about 4 grams of fiber, and 1 ounce of almonds contains just shy of 4 grams of fiber. Remember that refined or highly processed foods are likely lower in fiber than their whole food alternatives. It's also important to note that getting fiber from whole foods is generally preferred over fiber supplements if possible. Supplements such as Metamucil, Citrocell, or even Benefiber don't provide the variety of fiber and those added vitamins and minerals that our whole foods do. That being said, however, some people may still benefit from a fiber supplement if dietary changes aren't able to be made, or if they are struggling with other conditions such as constipation, diarrhea, or irritable bowel syndrome. It's always best to check with your doctor and/or your dietitian before trying any new supplement. Finally, if you aren't currently consuming too much fiber, be sure to increase your intake slowly, maybe over a few weeks or so. Adding too much fiber too fast may cause gas, bloating, and even some abdominal cramping. Again, it might take a few weeks to slowly work your way up to the recommended intake. Finally, remember that fiber works best with plenty of water. Just another reason to keep up with hydration, which we're going to talk a bit more about later on in this presentation today. So when our foods and drinks with carbohydrates are consumed and digested, the carbs are broken down into glucose or sugar in order to be used for energy by our cells. This causes the body's blood sugar to rise. In people without diabetes, the body's insulin is able to work properly to keep those blood sugar levels from elevating too much. If you have diabetes, however, this process doesn't work as seamlessly. People with diabetes may be resistant to insulin or may not produce enough of the hormone in order to manage the blood sugar levels as they should. In addition to diet, medication or insulin injections may be necessary to help facilitate this process. And in addition to taking medications or insulin prescribed, it is best to eat that consistent amount of carbohydrates throughout the course of the day. Therefore, it becomes very important for people with diabetes to be mindful of the quality, quantity, and timing of their carbohydrate intake. You learned earlier that complex carbs are higher quality than their refined counterparts, that portion control is essential, and that a consistent intake of carbohydrates throughout the day all play a role in diabetes self-management. We'll move on next to fat. So fat allows you to store energy, it cushions your organs, supports cell growth. It even makes certain hormones and helps you to absorb fat-soluble vitamins. There are 3 types of fat: trans fat, saturated fat, and unsaturated fat. Unsaturated fat can also be broken down one step further into polyunsaturated and monounsaturated fats. As we mentioned last week, trans fat should be avoided as much as possible. It may be found in margarine, shortening, baked goods, doughs, and fried foods. If you see trans fat or partially hydrogenated oils written on your food label or ingredients list, it's likely not the healthiest choice, so be sure to avoid or eat in moderation. Next up is saturated fat. In large amounts, saturated fat is known to increase your cholesterol levels and may also increase your risk for heart disease. Decreasing the amount of saturated fat in your diet may be beneficial, and it's recommended to consume less than 10% of your total calories from this fat source. For example, if you're eating a 2,000 calorie diet, aim for less than 20 grams of saturated fat per day. Saturated fat is found mostly in animal sources with high fat contents, such as fatty beef, lamb, pork, poultry with skin, lard, cream, and butter. Again, aim to consume these fats in moderation and incorporate a higher ratio of unsaturated fats in order to create a healthy diet. Unsaturated fats are known as the healthy fat, as they have been shown to lower unhealthy cholesterol levels. These healthy fats originate from plant sources such as avocados, nuts and nut butters, seeds, olives, and oils like olive, canola, or safflower oils. They can also be found in some animal sources such as fatty fish, including salmon, mackerel, sardines, tuna, and herring. So no matter the type of fat you are consuming, it's important to remember that fats are highest in calories compared to the other macronutrients. Being mindful of portion sizes can help you to stay within your daily calorie goals. Despite being high in calories, however, fats have very little effect on your blood glucose levels. This is one reason why it's important to pair or balance out our carbohydrate sources with sources of fat. When you eat fat along with a carbohydrate, it may help to slow the rise in your blood sugar. Fat also helps to slow down digestion a bit, so that once your blood sugar does rise, it can help to keep your levels stable and elevated evenly for a longer period of time than carbohydrate might alone. Finally, we move on to protein. Protein is an essential nutrient that is present in each and every cell in your body. It is made up of amino acids, which act as building blocks that help your body's tissues to grow and stay strong. Protein is also involved in important processes that help to keep the body systems operating as they should. Everyone needs to consume protein daily, and it can be found in many different foods such as meat, fish, milk, beans, nuts, and whole grains even. Meat, poultry, fish, and eggs provide the most protein, and protein from these animal foods is considered high quality as it supplies all of those essential amino acids. If you follow a vegetarian or vegan diet, you'll need to get your protein from plant-based sources such as tofu, tempeh, edamame, beans, legumes, nuts, and seeds. Plant-based protein foods will also likely provide fat and carbohydrate, so it's always important to read food labels in order to be aware of just how much carbs are in your, just how many carbohydrates are in your foods. So again, protein itself has little effect on blood glucose. Therefore, foods that are primarily composed of protein and fat, such as eggs, meat, poultry, and fish, will likely not raise your blood sugar levels. It is important to remember, though, that some sources of protein do, in fact, contain significant amounts of carbohydrates as well. Those plant-based proteins, again, like we mentioned on the last slide, tofu, beans, even quinoa, along with some dairy products like milk and yogurt, provide us with both protein and carbohydrates. These foods are certainly still very important and necessary in a healthy, well-balanced diet, but be sure, again, to read those food labels carefully so that you're aware of how much carbohydrate is in your meal plan. So we've talked a lot about reading the food label here, and you might be wondering about where you can find each macronutrient on a nutrient facts label. So we're going to review here. Beginning in the green section, you'll notice that the serving size is listed as 1 cup for this food. This means that every other amount on the label is based on 1 cup, or that 1 serving. So if you were to have 2 cups, remember you'd have to multiply every other number here by 2. Moving on down to the red portion here, we have a couple of those macronutrients that we had spoke about earlier, such as fat and carbohydrates. You'll find here the total fat number, which includes all of the fat in the food, including the saturated and unsaturated. You will notice that under the total fat section are saturated and trans fat. Remember that you want to keep these types of fat limited. It's not required for those healthy fats to be labeled on the nutrition facts label. However, if you are consuming a good source, it's likely that they will have snuck that mono or polyunsaturated amount onto the label. Further down in the red section comes total carbohydrates. This number includes all of the types of carbohydrates found in the food, including dietary fiber and sugar. It's important to remember that if you're counting your carbs, you'll want to use this number here. I'll put my little pointer up so you can see. This is your total carb number, and that's what you will use if you're counting your carbohydrates. If you think back to last week, we mentioned that one carb choice is the equivalent to about 15 grams of carbs. Remember, this is where you would find that number. Now, below those carbs are total dietary fiber and sugar. Remember that you want to strive for an intake of between 25 to 35 grams of dietary fiber per day. A high fiber food will typically contain at least 5 grams of fiber per serving. So the food listed here would not be considered a good fiber source. If you're looking for an easy trick to help you navigate the nutrition facts label, I'd like to share with you the purple column, which is the percent daily value. The percent daily value can help you quickly and generally identify your food product and if it is high or low in a particular nutrient. And we do this by using what we call the 5 and 20 rule. The rule states that if the item contains less than 5% of the daily value, then it is considered low in that nutrient. On the contrary, if it contains more than 20% of the daily value, it is considered high in the nutrient. For example, looking at this label, you will see that the serving of protein contains 44% of the daily value. This would mean it can be considered a high protein food. On the other hand, this item contains only 3% of our daily value for total carbohydrates. This would mean it's relatively low in carbs. The next time you make a food choice, be sure to check out the label. It can tell you a lot about the choices you're making and help you ensure that you're choosing optimal foods to manage your blood sugars and overall health. Moving on next to non-nutritive sweeteners. We've learned a lot about how sugar can increase your blood glucose levels and also pose negative health effects. So what are some other options? You might be familiar with what are called non-nutritive sweeteners. These non-nutritive sweeteners offer few to no nutritional benefits, as in no extra calories, vitamins, or minerals. The Food and Drug Administration, or FDA, has approved these non-nutritive sweeteners such as aspartame, saccharin, sucralose, stevia, and monk fruit sweetener for use in foods and beverages, and they are generally recognized as safe. These non-nutritive sweeteners can be very helpful for those hoping to manage calorie intake or blood sugar levels, as they provide few calories and do not raise your body's blood glucose. That being said, it is best to consume these alternatives in moderation. We wouldn't want you drinking diet sodas or these non-nutritive sweeteners all day long, each and every day. Moderation is key, as they can be helpful if you need to include maybe a diet soda at a party or another non-nutritive sweetened snack. We're going to talk next a bit about hydration. Before we begin, everyone take a sip of water if it's available. I know I need one at this point. So drinking adequate amounts of water ensures that your blood is able to carry enough oxygen and other nutrients to all the cells of your body. Adequate hydration may also help to keep blood sugars in check, promote a healthy weight, and help to keep skin moisturized. Each and every one of us has different hydration needs, but a general recommendation is to consume 8 8-ounce glasses or a total of 64 ounces of water per day. It's also important to note that you ingest water when eating some fruits and vegetables such as cucumbers, lettuce, and even watermelon. And this fluid intake can count towards your daily water goal. As with all nutrition recommendations, remember that this number is general and that each person's individual hydration needs may vary. Similarly to fiber, if you're currently not drinking much water, take a slow approach in increasing your intake. Try to increase by maybe 1 8-ounce glass every few days so that you aren't left feeling bloated and uncomfortable. Before you know it, you'll be reaching the daily recommendation. So now we've taken time to discuss those macronutrients, the food label, non-nutritive sweeteners, and even hydration. We're going to put it all together by focusing on some options for you. A helpful tool to assist you in creating some well-balanced snacks and meals is to use this Venn diagram. By choosing foods from each of the 3 circles, you are sure to add balance to your diet. What meal or snack would you come up with using this list? Please take time to think about it now. Aiming for a colorful plate is another way to ensure that you're including a variety of important vitamins, minerals, and other micronutrients. Did you know that the color of produce typically indicates the vitamins that the food contains? It's pretty interesting. Considering the importance of a variety of nutrients by focusing on adding more color to our eating patterns, we can help to ensure a well-balanced diet. These micronutrients, vitamins, and minerals are just as important as ensuring that all of your macronutrient needs are met. So in today's world, there's no hiding that we are all very busy and we might struggle to find time to prepare foods at home. Eating on the go can easily become a challenge when trying to make healthful, blood sugar conscious choices, as the options for convenience foods are often highly processed, high in saturated fats, sodium, and of course, sugar. However, it is possible to make healthful choices with a bit of planning and understanding. For example, instead of choosing a bag of chips, why don't you try some unbuttered popcorn or roasted chickpeas? These options offer fiber, which may help to keep you feeling full and satisfied for longer. Not to mention, will also have a less dramatic effect on your blood sugar. Craving a candy bar? Try choosing trail mix for a sweeter treat. Dried fruit and nuts provide essential nutrients while also satisfying your sweet tooth. Eating out is another area that can be challenging when looking for healthful choices. This contributes to the majority of our saturated fat, sodium, and added sugar intake, not to mention the increased portion sizes that you'll likely find if eating at a restaurant. That being said, there are some steps you can take in order to make dining out more healthful and blood sugar friendly. When dining out, consider a few of the following alternatives to make your meal a bit more nutritious. Choose foods that are grilled instead of fried. Choose extra non-starchy veggies or fruits as your side instead of French fries or chips. Opt for whole wheat bread instead of white for added fiber. And look for olive oil instead of butter or other creamy, maybe even mayo-based dressings or sauces. Remember to keep your diabetes plate method from last week in mind as you navigate restaurant meals. Aim for half of your plate to contain those non-starchy vegetables, a quarter to contain a lean protein source, and the final quarter to contain your carbohydrate or those starchy items. This helps to promote both balance and portion control in the restaurant setting. So take a few moments now to practice creating well-balanced meals and snacks. If you were able to keep a food log last week, now might be a good time to review it. Did your meals and snacks contain at least 2 of the 3 macronutrients? Were you cautious of your portion sizes? How did you feel, or how did your blood sugars react after eating certain meals? Moving forward now, what might you change as you plan for next week? Would it help to have snacks packed and ready to go ahead of time? Do you need to go grocery shopping for some vegetables or lean protein sources? How about hydration? Do you have a water bottle to keep by your side throughout the workday? All of these small things add up to making big changes. It's important to set goals for yourself to stay on track and to optimize your health and wellness. Again, take a moment to reflect on your overall health and well-being as it relates to the topics today. Where might some new goals lie? Think about one area you could possibly improve upon to support a healthier, more well you. Using the SMART goal format can really help to assist you in making specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and timely goals. Write your goal down on a piece of paper or using the notes capability on your phone. Reflect on this goal in the next few weeks and assess your progress. Remember that making your goals specific, measurable, attainable, and relevant and timely really can help them feel more achievable. So take time to put some thought into your goals.
Thank you so much, Lindsay. So of the following, choose steps that are most relevant and important to you. Which one will help you manage your diabetes so you can feel your best? Thank you so much for joining us today. Enrolling in the chronic disease management is just a phone call or email away. The process involves speaking with a patient advocate to enroll, a consent form that will be sent to you via email for completion. And once the patient advocates receive the form, a Connect Care 3 team member will reach out to you within 24 hours. Please stay tuned for week 4 of this series. Next week, we'll be focusing on medications and the complication of diabetes. Thank you.
Thanks again, everyone. We appreciate you taking your time today.